The next section here in chapter 2 on what you don't know can hurt you, what you don't know can hurt you, is the topic of what to eat, how much is too much, kind of getting ready to formulate your plan. So let's dive right into this. Wisdom, what we're talking about in this chapter, can be as basic as knowing the recommended serving size of your favorite foods and choosing correctly. People frequently ask, what is a serving size? Now, that's changed over the years. Our goal is to get people to eat until they are satisfied, not full. Big difference. So your serving size, it should be one in which this is going to satisfy me. And again, if you go huge salads, you have tomatoes, cucumbers, avocado, different kinds of lettuce, cabbage, some olives. I mean, you can have a pretty big serving size. So again, it depends what type of food, but in many cases, as we have been talking about, the problem isn't eating too much, but it's eating too often. Choose organic whenever possible. That's debatable sometimes, but the bottom line is what we're being exposed to, we do need to be careful with. It's good to maybe wash your organic food as well and not trust in it necessarily. But I think it is a better option because we are what we eat. If we eat meat, we must choose clean meat and consume it in moderation. And I wish we could all farm our own land and milk our own cows, but that's not realistic for the majority of most of us. If we eat vegetables and fruit sprayed with toxic chemicals, they will enter our bodies. For example, glyphosate, the main ingredient in Roundup weed killer, has been linked to leaky gut, cell damage, and disruption of the I knew I was going to pronounce that one wrong. Endocrine system. I know how to say it, but it gets challenging sometimes. It's endocrine system is basically a lot of our hormones and different things in the system. And that's just to name a few of the damaging effects. Genetically modified organisms, which GMOs are another hot topic. And I know, there's different views and depending on who you ask, but when you can genetically manipulate the DNA of a vegetable and make it Roundup ready so that you can spray the glyphosate on the plant and it will kill the weeds around it, but not the plant, there might be some ramifications down the road that we're not aware of. It's just best not to mess with God's design, especially in things like that. According to the non-GMO project, genetically modified organisms are living organisms whose genetic material has been artificially manipulated in a laboratory through genetic engineering. This creates combinations of plant, animal, bacteria, and virus genes that do not occur in nature or through traditional crossbreeding methods. In short, if God made it, eat it. If man manipulated it, avoid it. Be very careful. No one is certain yet on the ramifications of playing God. So let's give some daily tips here that I think will be very helpful. In addition to using wisdom when choosing serving sizes and portions, it's very important to also incorporate daily tips into your daily routine. And remember, this daily routine eventually becomes and forms a habit. And that's what we're really going after, is the habit. And so what I do, I don't really choose a portion size, even though I think that is important. You've got to do what works best for you. And I think that's the problem is, people recommend this and they're like, well, I can't eat that kind of diet, or recommend this. You gotta find what works well for you. So as much as I would love, I'm a big fan of whole plant-based foods. I just can't get away from, the biblical mandates, the biblical commands, the biblical principles of allowing clean meat and dairy. But again, they were much leaner. They walked a lot. They worked harder. So, if our lifestyle, and that's why we're seeing the sedentary lifestyle, overweight, obesity, and that's why, those foods could be harmful. That's why I would recommend majority of the diet being a whole plant-based food. And here's what we're saying. I'm going to consume mainly God-given food. These vegetables and sweet potatoes and beans. Beans are so nutritious, and fruit. These are life-giving foods. Where, animal products, it's really dead, decaying flesh, and dairy, saying eggs and things. The raw milk can be different. Not many of us can go to Sprouts and get raw milk, so that's challenging too. Plus, a lot of people don't like raw milk. What happens in the pasteurization process is the milk is pasteurized, heated, treated, so it kills all the bacteria. Unfortunately, it kills a lot of the good stuff too. So you're basically drinking sugar milk. So you do want to have it in moderation. And, of course, with the raw, you have to be careful, just like with anything else. And so that's why I recommend mainly whole plant-based foods, because it's life-giving food that gives life to the body. Now, it could be argued, that the animal products give life to the body. I mean, the iron, the zinc, the selenium, the vitamin Bs, some of the vitamin Bs. What about the huge protein intake? It's much better to get, easier to get a protein intake, high protein intake with meat than it is, with avoiding it. But then again, that's why it's confusing. There's different studies. If you look at, again, like Joel Furman's book, on protein, and plant protein and animal protein. I won't get into the differences, but you can look into that, if you want more information on that. But from what I can remember, both of them are very healthy. They're nutrient dense, they're healthy. For example, if you just drink collagen only, you would be missing one of the essential amino acids, which is L-tryptophan. And with plants, you do get the complete the essential amino acids if you have like rice and beans together. And we see, look at oxen, look at gorillas, look at bulls. I mean, there's some big, strong animals, horses. Look at the horse, they eat just vegetables only. So it can't provide enough protein. And I think the debate, that's why I want to be careful, because maybe when you're listening to this a couple of years from now, they might change their view again. But one side is you don't need as much protein as you think. I won't even get into the, 1 gram per kilogram. So if I weigh 200 pounds, it's 100, let's just say 100 kilograms, 1 gram will be 100 grams a day. 0.08 to 1 point. There's, I just try to eat God-given healthy food and have enough protein and things. But one view says, if you're whole plant-based only, you're probably definitely not getting as much protein as the person who eats meat and dairy. And this side, though, says that, man, especially as you get older, the protein need is even greater. So again, I'm not an expert. I haven't, dug deep into this topic other than probably many of you watch podcasts and different things, read studies on both sides. It is very interesting. And I also look at the physical condition of these people. Let's say I look at a Mark Sissons who owns Primal Kitchen, and some of these older men, 70 years old, that eat higher protein, they look more muscular. And I look at this other side who doesn't, and they look definitely more depleted of muscle. And so that's definitely something we have to keep in mind as well. So my thought is, again, how did God design it? You've got Abram in the Bible, Genesis, Abraham making a meal for some angels that visited him, said Sarah would be pregnant. And what does he do? He kills the fatted cow and prepares, I believe it was possibly some dairy and definitely some meat, some bread. We see Jesus eating fish. So, but again, there's so many different dynamics. If the person is overweight, unhealthy, even maybe a chance of cancer, I would get them probably away from meat and dairy. Again, I explained earlier on the insulin-like growth factor 1 and mTOR, mammalian target of rapamycin in the body. You've got complex 1 in the cell, complex 2, and how that can really fuel cancer if the protein consumption is high and mTOR is activated higher than normal. But anyway, let me give you some good guidelines. Consume 4 to 6 helpings of organic vegetables daily, definitely at each meal. What I would do, generally half a cup is considered 1 serving. And but again, if you choose that, I'm just going to eat vegetables, you're probably going to lose a good amount of weight. Throw some beans in there. However, if you're like, here's where I made a mistake. I was gaining weight on a plant-based diet. And I realized, I began to track everything. That's why tracking can be important. Calorie counting can become a form of dieting. So we have to be careful, but also we want to put a lot of tools in our toolbox in order to help us. And I realized I was taking probably, 2 or 3 handfuls of, big handfuls of nuts a day. And I added that up, and it was around 800 to 1,000 calories I was getting just in nuts. So again, you consume more energy than your body's burning, you will store it. And then I would include some servings, 3 servings of organic fruit. Berries are usually the best thing. Of course, bananas are a little, higher in sugar and things like that. But I love strawberries, blackberries, blueberries, things like that. Apples are good. The pectin, even something interesting, the skin of an apple. If you can eat a couple apples, that skin is probably one of the best things you can do to promote healthy bacteria, microbiome. It's really good. And, there's a debate on this topic, but I think 30 grams of fiber is a great goal, if not more. A pear contains about 5 grams of fiber. And the carnivore side will say, fiber's overrated. Plants are trying to kill you, which to me is just baloney, because we know, again, that's why God's design is so important. We know God's design, God's food that he gave us back from Genesis 1:9, probably, that he gave us the plant food, and the plant food that's high in fiber. The beans are very high in fiber. It's high in fiber because the fiber helps the nutrients. Not only are they absorbed, not only does the fiber slow down the absorption rate of the insulin, blood sugar, but it also helps with digestion and assimilation. So I'm really a big fan of that. Fat should come from God-given food. I use flaxseed, olive oil, coconut oil, avocados. Of course, I mentioned some nuts, not too many nuts. I'm trying to cut down really on my nuts now. And I'm a proponent of eating the actual food versus using the oil. So I don't use a lot of avocado oil or olive oil. I prefer the olives and the avocado. But if I do need something, I would definitely do that. Even with like an avocado, if you're almost done with it, you can smash it kind of on a skillet that you're cooking, and that oil and that avocado works really well for me too when I'm cooking like eggs or something. And also, instead of you eat almonds instead of like almond milk, and almond milk. Soy milk. I'm not scared of soy. Personally, organic soy. Here's why. The problem was, and which is true, too much soy, as it breaks down the body, it can actually create some estrogen, and then estrogen can be collected underneath the breast, and it turns into gynecomastia. But if you look at all the people in Japan, Okinawa, soybeans are like, we don't even eat 1/100th of the soy they do. And I think it'd be really high amounts of the soy. So you can watch it if you can, but I have no problem eating soybeans and soy milk, almond milk. But look at the ingredients. Are there emulsifiers, which are thickening agents? It's really hard to just get good, clean almond milk, but it is a good replacement, for those who maybe don't want dairy. So not only is the breakdown of the food slower by eating the actual food and not the oil, the uptake of nutrients and fiber is substantially higher than when eating the whole food. Also, I should throw in there like MCT oils, multi-chain triglycerides. The body can burn that fuel very efficiently. And depending on your goal, I'm writing to soccer moms and the average Joe, protein intake, depending on if you just want my advice, disclaimer, I'm not a medical physician. Don't alter your diet without talking to your doctor. Do your own research, find out what worked good for you. I've just found that my body works really well on a lot of salad things and fruit, but also a decent amount of protein. Probably for me, some will say 5% of your diet should be meat and dairy. Others say 15, 20%. I would say, if you want a number, I shoot for 20% protein at least. So if I'm eating, let's just say on a low calorie day, let's say 2,000 calories, what's 20% of that? Figure out what 400, that'd be 400 calories. And so you've got 100 grams of protein at 4 calories a gram. So it'd be 100 grams of protein. But it depends. I really don't get too caught up in the macronutrients other than God-given food in moderation, and it keeps it very simple. But again, that's up to you. So anyway, I'm going to just throw this out here. Just as we were permitted to consume meat and dairy, we are also permitted to drink alcohol, although some of us should abstain. And the Bible and alcohol back then was in minimal amounts, 2%. Now it's up to 12%. I mean, it's just, if you can avoid it, avoid it. And we all know the devastating effects that alcohol has, even though the Bible says, well, if you can have a little, you can. So does that same principle apply to meat and dairy in moderation? You know, you can, you're allowed, but if you have too much and you're not active, you're not taking care of your body, you're not eating clean. I mean, if you're eating processed meat with sodium nitrates and the meat has been, fed GMO corn and they've been shot up with a lot of different antibiotics, and they've eaten feed with glyphosate, and they've been also shot up with growth hormones. I mean, you're consuming what the animal consumed, and so that's why you have to be very careful. And there were meat and dairy advocates, 50, 60 years ago that talked about this very topic. One popular one is Weston A. Price, and he has some pretty impressive data showing how people have thrived on mainly just meat and raw dairy. Some tribes of people eat plant-based food, while others, such as in the Himalayas, eat raw dairy and unprocessed meat. Both groups are healthy. I think he was a dentist, and so even their teeth were healthy. They were in all cases, without a shadow of a doubt, they were all slender. That's the key, because when even me, like I said, I'd like to lose some more weight as I get older and be, my high school weight, because you can talk about toxicity, the obesity and visceral fat on the organs. So you're already in a kind of an unhealthy state. Now you're bringing in maybe some meat and dairy that's not very healthy. And man, you're not going to break out of that. So that's why some people say, I'm going to go on a Daniel fast. I call it a Daniel healthy eating program. I'm going to do that for a while. I'm going to get off meat and dairy. I'm going to do this for three months, see how I feel. I think I would definitely do that. It's good to switch around. I mean, there's so many rabbit trails I could take you. We could go back to, creation and seed time and harvest and winter and summer. Maybe we weren't supposed to eat exactly the same way every single day, 365 days a year. Maybe in the summer, more of the watermelon and berries and some nuts, and maybe in the winter, some healthy beef jerky and some eggs. And, you have to take that in consideration as well. And remember, ultra processed food leads to a higher risk of cancer, and we reap what we sow. And so what are we sowing? And so basically, you've heard this before in a grocery store. I don't even go down the middle aisles unless I need paper plates or something. I mean, all the aisle after aisle after aisle after aisle, it's all processed, engineered, sodium nitrates to partially hydrogenated oils, to food colorings, to food additives, to there's so many things that are just not good for us. And then also make sure you're getting in enough water. Water is essential for health and vitality, depending on, how active you are. I would definitely, the thing with water is you don't want to drink too much, because you can, especially like when you're fasting, you could push out the electrolytes. But if you're eating, these people that say, I'm going to try to drink this whole gallon today, maybe it works for you. But for me, when I've tried to force it, it just didn't feel good. But you don't want to wait till you're parched either. So a good, I'm probably at about half gallon a day, maybe 3/4. You can factor in, if you want, like some tea. Like if I have a whole pot of green tea and not too many tea bags, the caffeine diuretic effect is not going to offset the water too much. It's still getting a good amount of water. So you have to add that to your diet. Definitely add in some good sleep. Deep sleep, getting to bed early, shutting off the internet, getting off stimulants to get that sleep in is critical, because sleep is actually, when you sleep is when you heal. Supplement your meals with powerful multivitamins and minerals. Choose those that contain, high doses of antioxidants. An antioxidant, for those who don't know, they balance out free radicals. A free radical is, I believe it's an atom that is lost a proton, and it's dangerous because it's damaging the body. Oxidative. Sorry. Oh, it's hard with the dyslexia. Oxidative stress plays a role, and it turns into that free radicals. And so what antioxidants do is they give that atom a missing proton and stabilizes it. God-given food. It does this. So that's why it is so important. And so you can supplement your meal with supplements. I'm not going to go into a lot of supplements here because there's so many. It would probably take a short book to go over, what about this? What about this? I mean, if you're lacking, omega-3, omega-6s, the fish oil, I would take that supplement. I would take, complex vitamin B supplement, a vitamin D, vitamin E, that got vitamin C, and then a good multivitamin and vitamin. I mean, do you want to add, different, there's NAC, which is good for the cells. That's kind of new. And then also increasing NAD production. These are big words, so I just use the abbreviation. And then, of course, you've got echinacea, elderberry. You've got all these different kinds of testosterone boosters too, natural testosterone boosters. I remember yohimbe bark when I was, back in the fitness industry. And some of those things definitely work. You can feel a difference for sure. And then you got creatine, which is a cell volumizer that will kind of, fill you out a little bit. And so, but all of these have, we could talk about the benefits of all of them. Some of them, curcumin, turmeric. You just, in moderation. So supplements, to me, we can take too many. If you're taking 15 pills a day, 20 pills a day, just to do it, but you're not eating well, you're not exercising, you're not watching. That's what the key is. The supplements, hence the word supplement, they are supplementing a healthy diet. They don't take the place of it. And I'm trying to be more strategic in my supplements too, and not take as much as I used to. And then I would incorporate intermittent fasting into your daily routine as well. And even some blocks of fasting. I'm going to go 36 hours. I'm just going to drink water. You'll be amazed. You'll drop, 4 or 5 pounds. Not that that's the goal. A lot of that's water weight, of course, but you're resetting your body. You're allowing some autophagy to take place. And I'm going to go in this a little bit more detail in chapter 8, the final chapter, but just want to set the stage with that. And then also ingredients. Do you know what you eat? Look at the ingredients. For example, diet products, let's say, low calorie, no fat. A lot of them are just loaded with junk. Everything from aspartame to partially hydrogenated oils to everything, everything I've been mentioning. And so there's books out there. I used to read A Consumer's Dictionary of Food Additives by Ruth Winter. It was really eye-opening. And so what you have to do is these beverages and these drinks and all these things that appear and labels, natural or natural or inspired by or whole, they're really misleading. So you have to become a student. And it takes a little bit of time, but after that, it's not like, I'm not reading labels much anymore. Now, like if I go to get some tortillas and we're going to make some organic burritos, I'll look on the back, and a lot of tortillas are not real healthy. A lot of partially hydrogenated oils, or they'll use a lot of refined oils. Refined soybean oil, refined, pretty much if it's soybean oil, vegetable oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, canola oil, they've been heated and treated, and they're rancid, and then they've got to use other chemicals to take the rancid smell away and just the damage that they do on the body. So I try to find those made with avocado oil and olive oil because they're cold pressed, they're not really processed, or others that just don't have those oils. And it is hard. Sometimes you can't find them, but I do what I can. So ask yourself, does my body need this food, or does it want it when you're dealing with hunger and dieting and things like that? Does it need it, or does it want it? And I understand this is difficult. It's not easy, but we can no longer, look to like the FDA because they actually don't regulate products like they initially did. They're pretty much now, if something is really off, then they'll look into it. But a lot of the quality control is left up to the manufacturers, and that is scary. So anyway, as we conclude this chapter on wisdom, I want to remind you of Proverbs 4, 7 through 8. Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom. And in all you're getting, get understanding. Exalt her, exalt wisdom, and she will promote you. Wisdom will bring you honor. When you embrace wisdom, you will have success. And wisdom is the application of knowledge. Wisdom. So see, just because we know something, okay, I have knowledge that an apple is better than a Snickers bar. I have knowledge. But if I choose the Snickers bar, then I didn't use wisdom. So a lot of it's just need to start using wisdom and get back on track with our health.